Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to our review of the Raceface T2 tailgate pad. The T2 is available in either a mid-size or full-size width and can hold 5 or 6 bikes respectively. Price for the mid-size is $171.99 and the price for the full-size, which you've tested here, is $183.99. Now, we've been testing this primarily on a GMC pickup truck. Thanks to a couple of features, it is pretty compatible with Ford, Dodge, Toyota, or GM vehicles, and we'll get to some of those features later when we discuss the construction and build of the pad. All right, so first off, this is a PVC tarpaulin tailgate cover with a micro brushed, sort of a soft fleece lining on the inside designed to help protect the paint and finish on your truck. Now, the pad here across the top, as you'll see, with these 6 straps features a top edge adjustment. If you've got a GM pickup truck with a thinner, narrower tailgate, or something like a Ford or Dodge, which has a big wide topped tailgate, you can adjust these straps on the top and that will essentially widen or tighten in this tailgate. And it's a nice feature. A concern of ours obviously is you've just created 6 more points of potential failure in the future. As we probably all know, stitching and pull tabs are always the first things to go on tailgate pads. So definitely a cool feature if you've got multiple vehicles or you want to switch stuff up, share it with a buddy. Obviously could be a potential downside depending on how long these last. So far in the last 6 months, they've been holding up fine, but time will tell. Moving back from that, we've got these really cool raised down tube dividers, and essentially what those are designed to do is cradle a bike's down tube and prevent it from wanting to kind of walk back and forth as you're turning, driving on bumpy roads or whatever. So definitely a cool feature. It's got, a fair amount of padding and is kind of open just enough to kind of lock in and cradle that down tube and keep the bikes from moving. On the opposite side of the tailgate pad, you've got a raised fork bumper area, and essentially that's kind of a padded foam area, and it will help protect the fork as well as the truck from your stanchions kind of bouncing or rubbing against that. So a really nice feature that we like and something that we really appreciate. It actually does a nice job. Also, because of that soft foam, once you kind of get the bike in there and tighten it, it'll sort of mold and form around the stanchion to also help kind of keep that bike locked in place. The primary method of keeping the bikes in place is this hook and loop strap with the little plastic ring, as you'd imagine and find on all other tailgate pads. Downside, they're not e-bike friendly. Definitely a big issue for us as we are converted e-bike fans. So yeah, it's 2020. A huge portion of mountain bike sales are now e-bikes. I know it might not be an issue for everybody out there, but I think we probably need an extra 4 inches at least to get kind of a safe space for most of the e-bikes and their thicker, heavier duty down tubes. So on the back of the tailgate here, we've got a large centralized removable panel which allows for access to the tailgate handle and your backup camera. That's something that we obviously found pretty useful. Sean's got a backup camera on his truck, so we didn't actually run that latch cover at all. We pretty much pulled it off as soon as we got the tailgate pad and have been running without it the whole time. Still offers full coverage of the tailgate in terms of protecting the bikes and the truck, but gives you a great field of view when you're backing up and you've got your camera working. Something that we have read about or noticed on some of the forums or comments on Raceface's Instagram is that Dodge owners, I guess in particular, are having some issues with the shape of their tailgate and some scuffing or rubbage from that removable tailgate panel in there. So I guess on the back of that side, we've got kind of some slightly more exposed seams and a little bit longer Velcro material that was rubbing some people's trucks. So that might be something worth noting. Again, if you've got a camera and you're pulling that panel out like we have been, it probably won't be much of a concern, but it's something that we have heard being an issue for a few people, so thought we'd mention it here. So now that we've kind of walked you through a little bit of the construction and features of the pad, we'll talk about what we like and don't like, because there are definitely a couple of things that stand out on both sides of the spectrum. The first thing we talked about, which was a kind of a dislike and a bummer for us, obviously, was the length of these straps. Can't hold an e-bike down, so that's a pretty big bummer for us, since a majority of our riding and bike testing these days is on e-bikes. Despite the fact that the straps don't work, these really awesome down tube dividers do a good job of holding most of the bikes that we have. Now, some of the rounder down tubes we have on like the Trek Rail or Cannondale Moterra will sort of have some of the bikes moving or rotating a little bit, but some of the squarer down tubed bikes like our 9er WFO here stay in place really well, even without the strap. So it would be nice to have it, but the pad does a pretty good job of holding the bikes in place anyways. Now, next to the 9er, we've got a Santa Cruz 5010. Obviously the strap works just fine in there. The bike sits down in that little down tube divider a little bit better, a little deeper. So that thing, it holds very well. The bikes don't move. You know, even if we're charging down some pretty rough, bumpy login roads, these bikes stay in place. So that's a really nice benefit of this pad. Also, we really like, again, this fork bumper on the backside. And at the end of the fork bumper, you'll see there's like a cutout notch, much like you see here for the down tube, and then another raised section. So if you don't strap your bike down, or you really, you know, want to be Ken Block and try to do some Tokyo drifting around a corner, you're gonna, you know, have a nice blocked out area where if your fork starts sliding out, it will go into that recessed notch and it won't slide off the end of your tailgate and, you know, dent the side of your truck or mess up your fork stanchion. We've been in vehicles when both of those things have happened, and it's never good. So yeah, props to Raceface for doing that. Also, we really like the large accessible rear view camera area. It works great. A variety of trucks will have access. We've definitely seen some pads that have those big cutouts, and you'll be able to use your camera on one truck but not another. And every truck that we've put this pad on, we've been able to use the camera and get a nice field of view. So props again for good design there. So we also really like the fact that you can hold 6 bikes on this 6-bike pad. There have been lots of pads over the years that we've tried that have claimed a 6-bike capacity, and in reality they just don't hold 6 bikes. So this thing will definitely hold 6 bikes, and we've done it on numerous occasions. So we're definitely stoked to have max capacity, and if you really want to make it work, you might be able to get 7 on here, but it's not approved or rated for that, so you're on your own there. The tailgate pad stays in place nicely. It doesn't move on the truck. I mean, it goes end to end on the full-size pickup truck. We don't have a mid-size one to try, but we would imagine that the dimensions are pretty close to being perfect for the mid-size trucks as well. So that's definitely a nice feature. It's not sloppy or saggy and moving around on the truck. So after spending several months evaluating this tailgate pad and kind of prepping for this review, I asked Sour Patch, I was like, man, what do you think of this pad? Would you buy another one? Would you recommend this pad to one of your friends? And he said yes. It's a good pad. There's a couple areas that we think could be improved, like the longer strap, maybe a little bit taller down tube divider section. But beyond that, it does its job, and it does it well. The bikes stay in place, it protects the truck, it protects the bikes. We can hold 6 bikes easily. And I mean, that's really what this thing needs to do besides last. So it's only been a few months so far. It's lasted this far, which is better than some we've tried in the past. So it's got that going for us. Don't see this thing lasting for, you know, multiple years, especially if you leave it out in the sun all the time. But you know, that's kind of just the nature of materials and fabrics when they're getting beat on by the elements at the same time. So a solid pad all around. Definitely something that we stand behind and think is a good option. Probably would be, you know, best for guys with maybe Ford or GM or Ford or Dodge pickup trucks. The fact that we got to cinch down this top strap so much on the narrower GM pads, you know, it still works, but kind of creates a big fold in the seam in here, but not the end of the world by any means. So it just pushes that down tube divider a little farther down, and on some bikes and some down tubes doesn't quite give us as much padding for the security and stability as we'd like. So So there you have it, folks, the Raceface T2 tailgate pad. If you have any questions, another tailgate pad you think we should review in comparison to this, please let us know down below, and we'll try to answer any other questions that we missed in the review. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you out on the trails.